All right, good Monday, early afternoon, everybody. I'm Mike Iscovitz. Welcome to Mondays with Mike. Got a lot to talk about today, including hurricane season, including our cool temperatures that are in place. And then, of course, got the Astros orange going on. We got the Astros, oh man, just missing out on a game one victory and hoping to get a victory for this afternoon. And then, of course, the Texans actually pulled out a win against the Saints, which was pretty exciting. So, hey, let's just start out talking about that. The Saints, my favorite player, Jameis Winston, didn't get to make it into the game. Carr didn't play that great. The Saints were supposed to have one of the best defenses in the league, but Texans and CJ Stroud, made them look pretty pedestrian. So although CJ did throw his first interception of the year, he's had a pretty amazing start. I mean, I think we picked the right guy, don't you think? In fact, remember last year we were going to be in line to get the overall first pick, right? And then Lovie Smith, everybody kind of got upset with him because we beat the Bears at the end of the year. I think it was the Bears. We beat the Bears, and then we ended up having the second worst record in the league. And so we got the second pick in the draft, right? And so we didn't get the first pick in the draft. And so everybody said, well, we're missing out on the best guy. And Bryce Young was supposed to be the greatest guy and all that. Well, you know what? He hasn't, I don't think, hardly played at all in Carolina. He's been a mixture of hurt and ineffective. And CJ really seems like he was the best pick. Anthony Richardson with the Colts has a lot of potential. He's hurt now. He might be out for months, weeks or months with a shoulder surgery. So anyway, that's enough sports. I just wanted to let you know that the Texans made the right choice, I think, at quarterback. Only time will tell, but that's definitely the way it looks right now. All right. And then as far as baseball is concerned, I like these afternoon games. Last night, that evening game, for us early risers, didn't really have a chance to watch that much. I watched the first inning and a half or so, and then it was like, nah, time to go to bed. So exciting times here in Houston, and exciting with the weather as well. So we did get down to the low 50s this morning. Could get down to the 40s tonight, and that is going to most likely give us the coolest morning that we've had here since March 20th. So it has been a long time. In fact, I'd have to go back and check when the equinox was when the spring equinox was, to see if officially March 20th was wintertime or springtime. But really that doesn't matter. Let's see. Spring equinox 2023 was on March 20th. So technically, when that low temperature was hit, it was wintertime that morning. So anyway, tonight could give us the coolest night since last winter. How do you like that? Although, it'll be feeling pretty good, not that much in the way of wind. All right, so I want to talk to you about hurricane season. So one of the things that has been, asked frequently lately is hurricane season over? Well, hurricane season does technically go through November 30th, although that's kind of an arbitrary date. Most late season storms are East Coast storms, or they're just out in the Atlantic. Every once in a while, there is a Gulf storm in November, but it's extremely rare that it comes near Texas, and I'll show you why here in a minute. But the question is our hurricane season over? And I will say that, judging by history, yes. And I will share with you why. So let me go ahead and share the screen here. I'm going to pull some information here up for you. A great article was put out by our friends at Fox Weather. And the question was, what's the latest storm, the latest in the year, hurricane to ever hit the Texas coastline? The answer is today, at least this date, October the 16th, 1912. That was the latest in the season that a storm hit the Texas coastline. So technically, the hurricane season runs from June 1st until November 30th, which is 183 days. It's 6 months. But due to pattern changes like the shift of steering currents that we're getting right now that blow very swiftly from from west to east, bringing cold fronts into our area. Because of that shift in wind direction, it sort of effectively shuts off the threat for Texas. It would steer anything away that would form. So according to historical data from NOAA, the latest hurricane to make landfall in the southeastern United States made landfall on November the 21st, 1985. And that was Hurricane Kate. But like I said, that's very, very slim. And according to their research, November is fifth out of 6 months for seeing the least amount of tropical cyclones developing. But it's important to remember that the number of tropical cyclones doesn't mean that they all made landfall. So we've actually had a lot of pretty destructive landfalling tropical systems in June, with the most memorable for us being Tropical Storm Allison, which made landfall on June 5th of 2001. There are a greater number of November tropical systems. Now you can see here on the page here where I'm moving the mouse over, that's November. So when you compare this November to December timeframe with the June to July timeframe, there actually are more tropical storms and hurricanes usually that occur during that timeframe. But at the same time, they don't tend to affect land as much, and they tend to be very fast movers because when they do hit the United States, they get pushed really quickly by the jet stream currents, by the changing currents that happen this time of the year. So that limits our risk really as we head farther and farther into the season. Some states, like Texas, the likelihood of being directly impacted occurs much earlier in the season. So Texas, for example, you can shut off hurricane season mid-October. That's not the case for Florida, because if a storm forms in the Gulf of Mexico, it can still get pushed over to Florida. The Carolinas can still get a glancing blow from hurricanes this time of the year. So this is a list of the, you know what, this Pilates workout thing is like totally distracting me. I'm going to kill that. Here's a look at the latest hurricane strikes to hit each of the states that have been hit by hurricanes in this late in the season. So in Texas, as I mentioned, the latest hurricane strike was October the 16th, 1912. So obviously a long, long time ago. Louisiana was hit by Hurricane Juan on October 29th of 1985. So that one, again, October. So Louisiana hasn't taken a hurricane strike in November. Mississippi, the latest that they've ever been struck, September 28th by Hurricane George. It's not George, it's George. Alabama, the latest they've been directly hit. Now, keep in mind, Alabama's got a small coastline, and so does Mississippi. Okay, so the latest that they've been hit was Ivan in the middle of September 2004. Florida was hit by Hurricane Kate November 21st, 1985. Georgia, an unnamed storm in 1947 in October. South Carolina, Halloween of 1899, and North Carolina, November of 1861. So, and by the way, the reason that these storms are unnamed is because hurricanes didn't get names until 1953. And so any storms that hit before 1953 were typically named either unnamed storm, or they were named for where they hit or when they hit. So like, for example, the Labor Day hurricane of 1935. I know that that one hit the Florida Keys, category 5. So, but it's just called the Labor Day storm. It wasn't like a hurricane, Mike or anything like that. So in Texas, the latest direct landfall was October the 16th. This was a storm that made landfall south of Corpus Christi. And this is, in fact, a look at the path that it took. So this is a system that started out in the Caribbean Sea, where, by the way, the water temperatures are still in the middle 80s as of today. And so it's not impossible. There could be a storm that forms out there at some point. And it made its way across the Yucatan, where it made a brief landfall near Cancun and Cozumel as a tropical storm, and then intensified as it made it into the Gulf of Mexico, becoming a category 2 before moving in and then quickly dissipating. So it does look like most likely, and I don't have any good data for this right now. I'd have to go back and look, but By the time it made it to Houston, it was a tropical depression and most likely brought some rain, but was not a serious wind impact on the Texas coastline. So again, this is a rarity, and it was the latest in the season that it had ever happened. So kind of interesting to see. And here's another look at the latest to hit Louisiana, which was October the 29th. And then we could look at some other ones. And I remember, by the way, Ivan, here was Ivan on October the 29th in Alabama. I remember it because Tom Ziska, we sent Tom Ziska over to Alabama, and he rode out the storm there. And it was a rough one. It was a very strong Category 3 when it moved over Mobile Bay, and it was a pretty big deal. So to hit that late in the season was pretty rare. All right, so let me just move over now to what's happening currently. In the Atlantic Ocean, we have a couple of systems to watch. Nothing that's going to have any impact on us, but this one is called Invest 94. Invest just means an area of investigation, and this is a look at the ensemble computer models here of where this thing is headed, and it actually does pose somewhat of a threat to the Caribbean Sea, to the islands there of the Caribbean and the northwest part of the northeast part of the Caribbean Sea. Here's another look at some of the models here. This is all of the computer models, including the Hurricane Weather Research and Forecast model, the HWRF, the AVN-I, that just means it's an interpolated, it's the GFS model. And there are other consensus models here. This blue one that points a little bit more to the west, that's one of the runs of the UK model, which is not a really high performer. So this one is going to pose a little bit of a risk for places like Antigua and Guadeloupe and Barbuda and those spots, but not coming near Texas. There's another storm out there, which is the remnant low from what was Sean, which is not looking too impressive right now. Let's see, here's the satellite imagery from from the Atlantic Ocean. Here's Atlantic wide. And in fact, you can't even really see it. So it's sort of getting absorbed into a cold front there. All right, as far as what is coming our way, it doesn't look like we're going to have any, threat from the tropics, because when I choose this region here, which will give us a view of the Gulf of Mexico, and I'm going to turn on the steering currents here. So this is the GFS model, and I'm going to put on upper dynamics, and we'll put on where it says Z500. That means 500 millibars. This is at a height of about 18,000 feet. And so what I want you to notice here is exactly the high winds. So each one of these kind of flags that you're looking at right now indicate wind speed, and where you see the pennant, which looks like a little triangle, that means that those wind speeds are at 50 knots. And these other places, the wind speed is blowing like 30, 40 knots and just zipping across the area from west to east. So that's what's happening today. And even as we look ahead at time, you're going to notice that those winds keep moving in across the Gulf of Mexico and just sort of would sweep anything away. Wouldn't come anywhere near us. So and this is going way into the future. It is interesting. Let's see, near the end of the GFS model here, it's showing a little system coming in from Central America, maybe making its way into the southern Gulf of Mexico, but that's probably just noise. Nothing that I would really worry about. So by the time we get to a point where there would be a steering current pointed in our direction, we're looking at late October, and things would really be calmed down and cooling down by then. So anyway, that's the way things are looking right now. And it's kind of interesting to see that it's not impossible that a storm could come near the Texas coastline this time of the year, but over the 145-ish years of records that we have, it's never happened past October 16th. So hooray for us, right? I will tell you that we're going to have that chilly night tonight. We're going to have some gradual warming, maybe a few showers coming up on Thursday. And then beyond that, warmer air is going to be hanging around. So we'll probably be back in the middle and upper 80s coming up by the end of this week. So thanks for tuning in for this week's Mondays with Mike. And I'm glad to say that, yes, indeed, we are probably at the end of the Texas hurricane season. Shout out to my mom and Neil in Florida for watching. They're actually coming out to visit. They're going to be out visiting here coming up late this week. So we're looking forward to that and hoping for good weather. And it looks like it is going to be good. So thanks you all for joining in once again. And I will see you on TV, and I'll see you on here next week.